Hello and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge. I am LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group and the host of this amazing platform, which gives me the opportunity to showcase men and women from around the world who have stories that are designed to inspire and lift, educate, elevate us, particularly as women, to be the best that we can be, to dare to challenge those things that may create limitations. And those may even be things from systems, institutions, mindsets, the boxes that people place us in, the individuals who say, you can't do that. So that's what this show is all about. And this month is not only Women's History Month, but it is Disability Awareness Month. And I'm excited because I have a very special guest who will be joining us, Krista Giannak. And Krista is just an amazing person in her own right because she was able to break out of that fear factor, that shyness, in order to elevate and tell her story to help inspire others to do the same. She is a speaker, a writer, a skier, who, by the way, happens to be blind. She is an author, and she is a person who tells her clients and individuals in her circle to realize that it's important to be better known, to become trusted, and to be remembered. And I think we all want that. We want to be that change we wish to see in the world. We want to have that indelible impression in life and in business. But what does that really look like? Well, Krista is also the founder of Wise Words That Matter, where she uses her talents and gifts as a writer to blog, to do help her clients with public relations, content writing, and much, much more. And without further delay, I'm going to bring Krista to the stage. How's it going, Krista?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. And first of all, I want to honor you for being, when we think about women's history, we often think about those that have passed on, the giants whose shoulders we stand on, those that are making this global impact. But I believe that every woman has the opportunity to be that living history. We all have a lane of influence in our personal lives, in our families, in our communities. And that's what you're doing every day. You're showing up and showing the world what's possible. And again, how to get beyond those excuses. But also, it's Disability Awareness Month. So would you mind taking just a few minutes just to tell us what that means to you?
Absolutely. I used to shy away from my personal story, not because I'm a shy person, but because I was afraid that people would see me as blind first and Krista Giannak second. I wanted people to see me as the writer that I am, the creative person that I am, all of that. And what ended up happening was that I had a pivotal moment that helped to really change my mind and empower me to tell my own story. It was a time when I was in the spotlight. I was ready to receive an award from a nonprofit that I believed in. All smiles. There I was, waiting for them to talk about what I had done for the organization or my writing ability or whatever it was going to be. And the lady who runs the organization, she said, Krista is blind. She shows up all the time, even though she has to take the bus everywhere. She's amazing. And honestly, I just wanted to sink into the floor because at that moment, my blindness was on that stage and not me. Disability awareness and Disability Awareness Month is about being aware of the people behind the word disability. Disability is a real thing. It's an impairment in some life function. But a lot of times the boxes, as you put it, Wanda, that people that we're put in are actually more limiting in some ways than the disability itself, because there are lots of innovative ways to adapt to disabilities and to make things work. But a lot of times society isn't always ready for those ways, or we don't know they're possible. I mean, look at my skiing. I had no idea that skiing was possible for blind people, even though I'm an open-minded, disability-aware person, until I met the people who make it possible.
And that's a perfect intro to your story, because I wanted to talk about skiing. I know I had the opportunity to start skiing when I was young because we grew up in Europe, so skiing the Alps. But I'm not a very good skier. But been there, got the T-shirt,
Me
and
neither. I'm not a good skier either.
and I remember one time we went skiing. It was here in the U.S. in Arizona. Yes, Arizona does have two ski resorts, but
Really?
friend,
I never knew
yeah,
that.
yeah. And a girlfriend of mine had never skied before, and she went missing. We're like, "Where's Melanie?" They said, "Oh,
No.
Melanie, she's already on the lift, and in fact, she's doing the Black Diamond Run." I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
Oh.
no way!" So I, being a little arrogant, I said, "Wait a minute. She's never skied before. There is no way I'm going to let her out ski me." So I go on the Black Diamond Run.
Uh-oh.
Almost killed myself, Krista.
Oh,
I was
no.
like praying that I made it down safely. When we finally ended up at the end of the run, do you know where Melanie was? She was in the lodge, feet up, drinking cocoa. She never went up. So, with that, tell me what inspired you to say, you know what, I want to try this? Because so many people, sighted or not, have never ventured into the extreme sport of skiing.
Just as a pivotal moment inspired me to start telling my own story, that awards moment kind of made me realize that people are going to tell our stories whether we like them or not. So telling the story in a similar way, although the skiing came earlier than that awards moment, I think, the idea being that when you're out there doing things, you're making your own story, your own adventure. So when I got introduced to these folks, I mean, sometimes the phone weighs a million pounds. So the first step was me picking up the phone and actually asking the questions. Am I going to get hurt? How are these people trained? Are they experienced? Am I going to get hurt? What's it really like? Am I going to get hurt? What I ultimately found out was that the director of the program basically said, and it was this wonderful program in Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports, working in association with other organizations. So the director said to me, why don't you come down and check us out? Just come out onto the snow, meet us, experience it for yourself. You don't even have to like skiing. You don't even have to get on the lift. I'm like, oh, okay. So suddenly it became a low pressure situation. And he had told me some of the details, the method to the madness, and how they had experience, and they train, they have classes, they learn to direct blind and visually impaired people. They learn to become a team with the blind and visually impaired person. So it's that person, and then there are multiple ski guides and instructors that guide that and empower that one person by forging a path ahead for them. It's a wonderful experience of interdependence. But I didn't fully understand that until I actually got on the snow, till I met the people, till I experienced it. So I took it as a little series of tiny, tiny, tiny steps rather than seeing it as one whole. And I also had the realization and the belief that it didn't matter entirely if I ever skied. What mattered was the fact that if I didn't check this out, that I was going to regret it because skiing sounded like so much fun. So I knew that even if I didn't ski, at least I would have had the opportunity. At least I would have met the people, and I still could walk away with relationships that last. So I knew that even if skiing wasn't for me, I would find a way to make the best of the trip.
I love that. And that speaks to so many of us, Krista, where We have opportunities to experience life in a different way. And because it's unknown, we talk ourselves out of it. And as you said, you showed up, number one, you made a decision, and then you took it in the small steps in order to finally actualize that entire experience rather than becoming overwhelmed by the what ifs, like you were saying, what if I get hurt? Will I get hurt? Well, we can allow
Yeah.
that fear to overwhelm us and say, but what if I don't?
And
What if
speaking
I,
of
right?
Yeah, and speaking of showing up, that's what that woman said about me, and at the time, I thought it was kind of minimizing, but I later looked back on that moment with gratitude and not only thought about the fact that, "Oh, I need to tell my own story, and this is gonna inspire me to tell my story," but also the fact that showing up is really more than half the battle a lot of times because it's about showing up on a consistent basis. And I know from experience, all the times I don't show up, nothing happens. I mean, in terms of like showing up for myself in, you know, business development things or showing up for myself in terms of, those appointments with ourselves that we often don't keep. That kind of thing where when I don't show up, things happen. Or when I make excuses instead of getting to the real root cause of why it's not working or what I'm doing. If I just kind of use a surface level reason, oh, I'm not going to show up because I'm tired or something like that,
Hmm.
then it doesn't get me anywhere. Whereas when I go beneath the surface of the excuse and figure out, okay, what's not working here? Is there something I can do? Is there someone I can talk to? Maybe there's an impossible person I can meet that's already done this.
Yes. I love that because we can, a friend told me a long time ago, any excuse will do. And it just will. I mean, you find a reason why not. But imagine if you look for those reasons why you can.
Right.
The possibilities. That's when the door opens and the deliciousness of life, I believe, truly unfolds.
Yeah, but
And
also
then,
that we don't ignore the big reasons why not, and that
yes,
the little reasons that we use as excuses,
exactly.
that's where, but not ignoring the big ones and trying to figure out, okay, is there another angle? I mean, I'm a writer, so I'm always thinking about angles and spin and, so how can I spin this so that it is a different challenge even?
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about how you, from that moment where you were going to get the award and how you were being introduced and what was being spotlighted was not you, Krista. How did you take that as a seed of empowerment to start reimagining your life and how you choose to show up every day?
I started realizing that I needed to tell my own story. It was less about reimagining my life, but realizing how I can tell my story so that people can see my story from a strengths-based perspective, and that, because whenever there's an elephant in the room, people are going to tell stories about it anyway, right?
Right.
And that was really the empowerment of that moment. Over time, I realized that of course, we all have challenges, we all have fears, we all have strengths and weaknesses and abilities and limitations, all of that. So it actually brings me together with people, the fact that I did something that I thought wasn't possible, because we can all relate to that moment where we think something's not possible for us. And it's not that I'm so extraordinary, it's that, because sometimes people go down that road like, "Oh, it's amazing she shows up," that kind of thing, and they talk about mundane activities that people with disabilities do as though they're amazing. What I realized was that I can reframe that story by actually talking about times when I've done something that I'm proud of, and I can share those times, as well as helping my own clients to find their moments of strength, their pivotal moments where they learned a lesson, where they grew, where they developed in some way. And that way they can show up, because a lot of authenticity, trust building, credibility boosting is about, where are we starting from? What is our journey to get where we are today? Why are we the right person positioned to help this client at this particular time?
I like what you said, and that leads us to the theme for Women's History Month is women who tell our stories. And to those of you who identify as the her in your life, I always say, show up and tell your own story. Don't be on the sidelines of life. As we're evolving, we're actually history in the making. And I love what you said, Krista, that it wasn't about reimagining your life, but reframing how you tell the story to help shift the paradigms, the biases that are inherently out there when we're looking at those in the disabled community. It's just a reality. And I believe that through these shared experiences and sharing your lived experience, it helps to remove the barriers that tend to stagnate communication. It opens up the doors where we really become a society that is truly inclusive in deed and action, not just in talk. And I think, like you said, some people who will look at those in the disabled community, and I loved how you said that we will celebrate what you classify the mundane things, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, well, no, I'm just living my life. This is normal. Me doing this is normal. And I think that's where we have to get out of our own way and realize there are some biases that are there. I know there's a big talk right now with the movie Creed 3 coming out. And the young, I can't remember the actress, but the young actress who is deaf. And they're just really celebrating not only her and her courage and she's first time young actress, but the fact that now it opens up the lens of a different generation, a younger generation, in a way where we approach each other with empathy, with openness, with really saying, I see you, I hear you, I get you, I understand, and I'm allowing you to be and show up in your brilliance, whatever that is. And I think it's pretty powerful. And so forgive us if we are celebrating what individuals like you may see as mundane, because we're not walking your journey, right?
Well, it's part of the disability awareness story. The
Yes,
reason why people celebrate what seems mundane to the community itself is that the stories aren't out there enough.
true.
If it's not about, it's not a diss on the people who's celebrating. It's a reflection on the fact that there isn't as much knowledge. I mean, my dream really is that we all grow up like learning this stuff in elementary school, that we all grow up learning as a basic lesson about all the different types of abilities and disabilities, and about adapting, because human history, human life, human diversity is all about adapting. It's all about innovation. So if we want to inspire our kids to be someone, quote unquote, and do something and make a difference in their little corner of the world, we need to think about all the little innovations going on around us every day that we don't even know about.
I totally agree. Krista, who inspired you or inspires you?
A lot of people inspire me in different ways. So one person who inspired me is a woman by the name of Nancy Matthews from the Women's Prosperity Network. She inspires me because she has a speaking style that helped me learn to be a better speaker. I sometimes, when I get in my own head or stuck in my own way, the way that I overcome that for myself is by saying, what would, and then I put in someone who inspires me, say or do. And there are times where I don't know the answer, but there are many other times where, I have a pretty good idea of what they might be saying or doing. And sometimes that allows me to then say or do the same thing. So in her case, she had a cadence to her voice, kind of a rhythm and a way of carrying people along in her speaking that I admired. So I sat through her workshop for 3 days. And so I was listening to her voice and I was like, oh, I can talk like that. I can start to talk like that. And of course, I didn't stay in the space of Nancy Matthews, but it was a starting point for me to improve my own speaking.
I love that. So it gave you, I guess, the fertile soil in which to then develop and expand your own style.
Yeah.
Right? So you love the cadence, but then stylistically, it's Krista.
Right. That sometimes we can start with our role models and emulating the role models, and then or following there's so many blueprints and formulas and this and that. I think they're a great starting point. They're not the end. And that's what I always encourage clients as a writer, that when you have a formula, it's never the end. The idea. So it's in the same way, I'm not so much following Nancy's. Well, she does have a formula as well, but it was more to the point. I was emulating her, but that wasn't going to be the end of my journey. And I find that ordinary things inspire me. And there's also another person, my martial arts instructor, Sensei Devin Fernandez of thirdeyeinsight.org. That's EYE. In case anyone wants to check out blind martial arts, you can go to Third Eye Insight. And Sensei Devin is inspiring because he lost his vision, and it didn't take long after he lost his vision, like fairly early on, like within a year or two, something like that, to start to give back so that he realized that he could use his own gifts and talents to help the visually impaired community. He was a black belt. So he brought that to the blind and visually impaired community really early on after he started to lose his vision. And even after he started losing more and more and more vision, he never lost his insight. He never lost that vision of blind and visually impaired people coming together in fitness and having a place to feel accepted. So I find that inspiring because it's very difficult when you're in a time of loss or in a time of grief to go beyond that. So that, to me, is kind of an ordinary, extraordinary thing, if you want to call it that. Like, it's a very difficult challenge that to give back in those moments.
Yes. What discipline?
Oh, ninjutsu.
Okay. And my nephew, he's 17. He's a second degree black belt in Taekwondo and Hapkido. And I remember him telling me something when he started. He was 5 years old. And I asked him if he was going to continue with it. And he said, Auntie Juana, and he pointed to this banner on the wall. And he said, can you read that? And I said, yes. He goes, what does it say? And I said, it says a white belt is a black belt. I'm sorry, a black belt is a white belt who never gave up. And so I hear when you're sharing the story with your sensei, he had a vision, and simply because he was losing his sight, he never lost sight, right? He never lost the vision, and he found a way to bring it about. And I think that's just beautiful.
Yeah, me too. I love that story. And it speaks, again, beyond the mundane and into when people do things that are truly life-changing, either for themselves or for other people. And that people with disabilities aspire to those same standards, just like everyone else, that we all find things inspiring. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes the ordinary can be inspiring in a different way. I mean, as that woman from the organization, there is real merit in simply showing up. That is a real characteristic that we need to aspire to as well. So it kind of depends on how you look at inspiration. And I also believe that sometimes when we say that someone or something is amazing, it's
Mhm.
because we don't really understand it. I mean, I said something the other day to my father, about power, and we were talking about electricity. There was a situation where a generator took over for a power outage, and so just the way he was describing it, and I said, "Wow, that's amazing," and he said, "No, it's not. It's engineering." Just like that, because it was me mind blown, because it took so much innovation to get to that point. But that's it. It's a series. It was obviously a series of multiple innovations over time to get to those points.
I love that. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back before we close out. One moment. So that video celebrating Women's History Month and how important it is for us to continue to encourage, support, and uplift one another, because there lies our power. I often say that we can go far independently, but we can go so much farther together. And it's really through community and, like you said, helping each other to be celebrated, to be known, to become trusted, and to be remembered. And we are here with Krista Giannak, and we are talking about how we can eliminate the excuses in our lives so that we can soar. So, Krista, last two questions for you. And then I would like you to close with some words specifically to our audience. How do you inspire others? And what do you hope your legacy will be?
I hope my legacy will be that innovation is important. I really love the tech community. I love personal development kind of stuff. I can still remember when I was a little kid having that first experience, those first experiences of the computer talking. I was so excited. Oh my gosh, my computer can talk to me. This is amazing. That same kind of thing. And what I realized was that tech opens doors for people. In that same way, I want my writing to share messages of all of those people who are opening doors, all of those people who are making a difference, who are doing something just a little bit differently, or maybe just a lot differently. And my goal is to share their messages, to connect with them on a deep level, to share what they know, their wisdom, their journey, and to inspire them to go just a little bit deeper and think about their own lives, their own moments, the challenges and journeys that they've had, so that they can be more trusted. Because we all trust people more when we can see the path from where they were to how they got here, and how that positions them better to empower us, to help us, to guide us. That's how I hope that I inspire people. And I hope that I inspire people by helping them to open their minds to possibilities that maybe they might not have seen, either for themselves or others. The most inspiring, the most wonderfully rewarding thing you can do for me is hire someone with a disability.
I love that. So that's a powerful call to action. And we can all play our part, right, in our own lane of influence, and creating awareness, leaning in, understanding. And if you have any questions and you'd like to know how can you tap into and be a part of the broader community? Reach out to Krista. Her contact information is here below. You can email her at Krista at words
Wise words that matter.
wisewords.matter.com. I have it right.
Krista at
Krista at wisewords.matter.com. And you can also reach her on social media. Krista, what last words would you like to leave our audience?
If you think something's impossible, find someone who's already done it. Because that's what happened to me. Those people found me.
I love that. So find those mentors, find those individuals that are wearing that T-shirt, been there, done that, right? And and follow their lead, and the world will open up in so many amazing and beautiful ways. Krista, thank you so very much for joining us for another edition of Choose to Challenge. To our listeners, then success is inevitable. So, ladies and gentlemen, choose to challenge, seize life, live life, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much, Krista.
Thank you for having me.